Hi everybody. You're going to watch this video today to see what to do for your reading assignment. So we are going to focus on plot today. The plot are all of the events that happen in a book or a movie or in anything that you've read. They include kind of the characters, the setting, the problem, and the solution of the story, and then kind of all the major events in between. So you guys have made a lot of plot mountains for your own writing when we do a narrative where you have a beginning of your story, middle of your story, and your end of your story. And we've also done plot mountains in school where when we were reading stories, we pulled out the main parts of a plot mountain. A plot mountain is great because A, it helps you really see if you understand the storyline and all the major events, and it also helps give you a summary of all the things that are happening in the story. So you guys today are going to be making a plot mountain for Kate Barlow's storyline. We read that last week, and we started and finished her entire storyline in just a couple chapters. So Holes is a really interesting book because we have Stanley's storyline, which is the main focus, but we also have some other characters who are really, really important to the story and take place at different times. And Louis Satcher does flashbacks to their storylines to help us get a bigger picture of what's happening to Stanley. So I'm going to model an example of this with Elia Yelnatz's storyline, since we also started and finished his. So here's a quick review of plot. So as a reminder, our exposition starts at the very beginning. That's just the background. It kind of includes the introduction of the characters and the setting and gives us a little bit of background on what we're dealing with. As we go up the side of the mountain, we have our rising action. This includes all the events that lead to like the main problem or the conflict or the climax. So the rising action should have like 3, 4, 5 different events to it that help build the suspense of the story and what's about to happen. At the top of the mountain, we have the climax of the story, which is when everything kind of comes to the head. It's the most exciting part of the story. It's when you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening, and you want to find out more. After that, we have the falling action, which again is a couple, 3, 4, 5 events, and this is when the characters kind of are solving a problem and working towards the end of the book. And then at the very end of our mountain, we have back at the bottom the resolution, and this is how things end up in the story, what happens in the end to the different characters. So Elia Yelnatz goes through an entire plot mountain because we know his beginning and his end of his story, and the same with Kate Barlow. We know the beginning and the end of her storyline as well. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you with Elia. So what I did first is I reread Elia's storyline because I haven't read it in a while, and I wanted to just freshen up my mind with what's happening. And then here is my finished plot mountain. So I typed it. So first things first, when I went to type this, you are not writing with any of these pens. You click this T tool. When you first start typing, it's really large, and you kind of start, so let's pretend I'm typing all these things. You're like, oh my gosh, that's so big. What you're going to do is if you click this little hand tool, all these little dots will come up around it. So if you make this smaller, so sometimes what I like to do is I take the corner one and I drag it in and in and in, and then look at it makes the font smaller. And if you make it too small and you're like, okay, that's what I want, you can also pull it out and make it wider or longer. You can make it shorter, and you can pull it this way. So what I did is I typed my whole thing and I shifted it and made it a little smaller so it fit inside these boxes. So okay, so I'm going to start the exposition for Elia. So in the beginning of the story for Elia, we learned that he is 15. Elia Yelnatz was 15 years old, and he lived in Latvia, and he was in the country of Latvia, and he was in love with Myra Menke. So again, I put that, I slid this, and I put it right in here. If you again want to make it a little bit longer, you can do this, and I can fit it a little bit better, and I can put it right in there. Now that's my background knowledge on Elia. Then I have my rising action. I'm going to make this bigger just so we can read. So I numbered my rising action, and I have 5 events. So I said 1, both he and Igor wanted to marry Myra. The second big event that happened was that Myra's dad said whoever is the fattest pig gets to marry her. The third thing is that Elia went to Madame Zeroni for help, and she told him to carry up a pig up the mountain every day, let it drink from the stream, and now make sure you reread because I'm finding mistakes in mine, and sing it a song. The fourth thing that happened was then she also asked Elia to carry her up the mountain. And I'm going to add actually, or else, and if he doesn't, he will be cursed. And then the fifth thing is Elia does carry the pig up the mountain except for that last day. So again, I'm done. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. So here, let me click the little hand, got my dots. not going to make it too small. I'm just going to put it right there. The climax is the most exciting part. So I thought the climax of the story was Elia takes his pig to see if it's the biggest, but it's a tie, and Myra's father said Myra could pick whoever to marry. And she says to pick a number between 1 and 10, and Elia says to marry Igor because Myra doesn't really love him. So I have that as the most exciting part because I was like, oh my gosh, waiting to see what happened with the pig, and then in the end it didn't even work because he didn't carry up the mountain that last day. My falling action is what happens after that. So I have 2 main things that happened. I have Elia. Number 1 is that Elia sees a boat and gets on it and goes to America. And number 2 is that while he's on the boat, he realizes he never carried Madame Zeroni up the mountain, and now his family is cursed. Then my resolution is kind of how things end for Elia at the end of his life. So I wrote Elia ends up marrying Sarah Miller, and they name their son Stanley, who is Stanley's great-great-grandfather. Or great-grandfather, I should say. And that Elia translates the song to English, and it's the same song that Stanley's dad sings to him. So we know it's been passed down for generations. And I'm going to add one more thing. His family... He thinks he is cursed, but he has a happy life. So in the end, he does have a lot of bad luck, but he is happy. So what you're going to do is first, before you do your Kate plot mountain, you're going to reread her storyline. So I put just Kate's storyline. Here, I would just reread it so you can get a refresher in your brain about what happens to Kate and the key events that happen. And then you're going to come to your plot diagram. And again, you're going to use this T for the text tool. You can type, and you're going to make it smaller, and you are going to fit it in the boxes, and you're going to come up with your exposition, meaning the background on Kate and the setting. The rising action, a couple events that lead to the climax, what part where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. The falling action, a couple events, and then the resolution, okay? I hope this video was helpful and that we now know what to do. Bye, guys.